Cameron Smith says, is there a form I need to fill out to join the Let's Like Each Other's Questions Club? There might be, but you're going to have to talk to Facebook about that. And I don't own Facebook. Ashley Rose. Hey, Bill, during a clinical psychology PhD interview last week, I got a diversity question. What is your experience with diversity? In my response, I stated that racial, ethnic diversity is far less important to me than viewpoint diversity. Yes, I may have totally blown my chances by doing so. Should conservatives pretend to buy into or play the diversity game in the career educational world in order to stand any sort of a chance? It's a really great question, Ashley, and we've dealt with that kind of a question here a couple times. People every now and then would ask me, they say, hey, I am... there's some talk about what you have to do to get a crown on the Twitch live stream, and Scott Ott said, somebody said, "What, Scott, why don't you have a crown?" And Scott replied, Scott Ott is, referring to himself in the third person, Scott Ott is way too humble to have a crown, humbler than all the rest. And boy, is that ever the truth. And I can tell you from a long 10 years of personal experience that there is no one in the world who has more to be humble about than Scott Ott. Okay. So your question is, do you stand up, Ashley? And my personal advice is don't. If it turns out that if you need the job, then you need the job. You know, people often say silence is complicity. Maybe it's complicity if you're planning a crime or a murder. But if people have a different political view of yours than you, rather, and you decide that you're not going to bring up your political view in order to continue working, I don't see that as being a sellout. Now, if it turned out that they were planning to go out and murder people, you didn't do anything about it, that would be. But this case, who cares? It's a tough call. I've seen so many actors and show business personnel. I hosted most of the FOA events that we did. Most of the new members events I hosted. I'll bet I hosted 70% of them. And I saw scores of people crying at their first meeting, crying out of shame for all the times that they basically agreed with some of this toxic nonsense that the left spews out. And I respond to that by saying, that's nothing to be ashamed of. This is your livelihood. This is how you make a living. You have obligations not only to yourself and your creditors, you have obligations to family and pets and all the rest of it. It's not your fault that this oppression is going on. And while you could make the case that if everybody stood up at the same time, that would help. But I don't blame you one bit. You know, the thing of it is, it's like, you know, it kind of comes down to render under Caesar kind of thing. You know, we all have to walk around in this world, and we don't get to control what the world is, or our culture, or the climate, or any of that stuff. We don't have any control over that. All we have control over is ourselves, and we can. If every single person in the country just decided to make themselves a good citizen, we'd have an amazing country. And some people can do more than that, and they can influence other people to be good citizens, and that helps too. But you are not responsible for the prejudice that's out there, and you do need a job. So there you go.